Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Thorne. I'm joined here with Fee Hills from MindNudger AI, and we are back for our weekly Monday morning Fit for Change. Now, today, this is where the rubber really meets the road. The last few weeks, we've been talking to you all about how to individualize learner journeys, what all that takes, some of the paradigm shifts needed. And today, we're going to really take you behind the scenes into how we brought all that together on our mind nudging journeys in the MindNudger AI platform. Now, just to kind of kick this off, let's kind of just recap here really quickly. What is a mind nudging journey? And because that's going to be our focus for today. So mind nudging journey, very simply, it's a micro learning journey where we have 6 to 12 themes over a period of as many weeks. We may have between 10 to 30 cohorts, or 10 to 30 participants in a cohort, and there's one theme a week. Now, by a theme, what we mean by that is a strategy, a skill, a behavior, a technique. And to give you an example, we've been talking to you about the mind nudging psych safety journey, and we have a theme called Sit a While in My Seat, which is all about helping people to genuinely shift their perspective so they can see things from the other person's point of view. Now, each week, there will be a separate theme, and then that theme gets broken down into 3 core mind nudges across the week. So on Monday, the mind nudge is about observation, Wednesday about reflection, Friday about action. And the key thing is that there's also a social learning element, which we're going to touch on later in the week, but there is human facilitation as we're going about this journey. Fee, just take us real quick to how does a mind nudge actually work? So there's 3 core parts. So what exactly is a mind nudge? I know we've been throwing the term around. Some of you might be familiar with it, but effectively a mind nudge it's an experiential form of micro learning that facilitates someone to actually learn and reflect, because actually when we learn is actually in the reflection. Sorry, I'm going to need my glasses for this part. And really what the mind nudge does is it primes that unconscious mind. It anchors in new thoughts or ideas. It initially raises that self-awareness, and it helps us to recognize where our thought patterns are. Perhaps we have some that are helpful or not helpful, and it really starts that journey of helping us to really reorganize our thought patterns, because it works at both an unconscious and a conscious level. And this process of reflection creates a feedback loop between the participant and the facilitator to help you to form new habits. And ultimately, what we're really trying to do is to facilitate behavior change and doing it at scale. Sorry, next slide, please.
You stopped. I was like,
my bad. I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
It is Monday, folks. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. This is our excuse, and we're sticking to it. So, yeah, ultimately, like Chris said, it is basically facilitates behavior change. That's what we're after. I think what we're focusing on here, really, obviously, is workplaces. Okay, so what we're talking about, mindset navigation platform, which is MindNudger AI, is a software as a service platform that is fueled by both methods and AI. So new transformational learning methods, and also the power of AI, and of course a software system that helps us enable us to make that happen in practice. So when we're talking about a mindset navigation platform, we're talking about something that can actually help us in practice speed up, scale, and sustain mindset change in a big in an organization. We're not really talking about just one-to-one coaching or anything like that. So it is a completely different take on how we look at behavior in the workplace, specifically in an exponentially changing world. So what we want to do today really is, as Chris said, is really sort of hone on in the practice of how we built a mind nudging journey for mindset change into the platform itself, But to do that first, we don't want to start that without any context, which is why we've been giving you a little bit of context. So here's a typical journey. This is what it looks like. So how do we get it from what it looks like there and get these themes over to here? And first thing is to understand, like, how is what is a mind nudge? Yes. How is a mind nudge designed? So what makes that different to, say, a piece of content in learning? Like, we might be learning a model, something to do with inclusion, or something to do with, what can I say, learning, or anything, or leadership, any part of leadership. We're learning, say, a lot of models. And sometimes the way we learn that model is pretty much sage on the stage. And I don't mean that in an insulting way. I love stage on the stage. I love content. I listen to it all the time, which is what we've been explaining all these weeks. But the thing is, when it comes to execution of mindset and behavior change, it's a whole different ballgame. So learning a model and how to do it is not enough. We need to be able to execute. We need to be able to, as a leader, understand. Always context matters. But like, I've got this sort of model of a strategy for fostering psychological safety, or one element of it. How do I actually put that into practice? And it's that bit of execution that sometimes is so tricky to do at scale, understandably. And that's the bit that the MindNudger AI is really, it's filling that gap in the middle, right? So how is a MindNudge designed? It's a process. So what we're doing is we're almost pushing people through that, or participants through, should we say, that process of introspection, of reflection. So sometimes when we look at reflection, we say, well, yeah, we already reflect. The question is, do we reflect to get new knowledge? Do we reflect for change? Do we learn from our mistakes? No, 9 times out of 10, we don't get the time to reflect. We don't get the space and the safe space in our heads to reflect. And what mind nudging does is it creates that space, and it creates that safe space in our mind where we can almost be sherped through that process. Because the same way you'd go into a guided meditation, you could ask, well, why don't you just do the guided meditation on your own? You can just meditate. Well, some people do. But a lot of people need that guided meditation. And to reflect properly, we need that guidance. So what a mind nudge is that guidance. It's guiding us through observe, reflect, and action, or adaptation. So Monday, we'd get a mind nudge, which I'm going to walk you through in a minute. Observe, which helps us to raise our self-awareness about a particular topic or a particular thing. Like Chris, you were explaining about the sit a while in my seat.
To see other people's view.
So in that case, we'd raise our awareness about that, and you'd have time and space to observe that unconsciously and consciously as you're going about your busy day. So it's like that effect, almost like someone tells you about a yellow car, and all of a sudden you're seeing yellow cars everywhere. It's the same effect, right? And then Wednesday, it's going to draw you back to a different type of mind nudge, which gets you to reflect on what you've observed about yourself and about others, about the world at large, in that particular topic. So discover and learn. Now, in experiential learning, which you may already know, especially the people watching this, 100% is about really the learning. The learning happens in the reflection. So in experiential learning, it's not really about what I notice. It's about when I reflect, I start to learn, and that's where the rubber hits the road, really. And then the Friday, you'd get a nudge that puts you into a special room, which is we call an action room, where you take, you almost, this is what I'm going to try and do. This is what I'm committing to, because at the end of the day, regardless of observation and reflection, we have to take action to change. And this is like a nano action about behavior change. So I'm going to practice this or do this, and then I hold myself accountable. And also remember what Chris said, these journeys are facilitated by humans and AI.
Mm.
So we also, in the action room, the facilitator is also supporting that process. So we can, and so we've got things like peer partners, which also help you to keep accountable along your journey. So hopefully that explains what a mind nudge is. And now this makes sense, which is today we're only going to focus on this side. This is a mindset navigation platform. It's a MindNudger AI platform. And you can see that there are different rooms. And today we're going to be focused on how we build the mind nudges into the platform. So we take it from the journey design to, so you'd almost take it from the program to the journey design, and from the journey design with your mind nudges, now we're going to implement it to actually work as a systemized process. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And that's because we've got half an hour, and it's probably all we'll really have time for. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take you through how the system operates, almost like a view from the back, if you like. And what Chris is then going to do is share the day in the life of a participant. So how do they experience it? Because remember, from a participant point of view, this type of thing where people are already overwhelmed needs to be frictionless. And we have worked so hard to make this frictionless. So she's going to explain how that works in a minute. So on that note, let's take a view into the Mind Nudge room and explain almost like the pathway and also the content. So remember the mission. The mission of a mind nudging journey from a mind nudge point of view is to guide participants through the process of introspection. So that is the job of mind nudging. It's not the job of the social learning bit and the other bits that are integrated and blended into the mind nudging journey, which we're going to explain about next week. This is purely on the basis of reflection. So each theme, remember, it works on the basis of weekly themes, is a strategy, like Chris said, or a technique or a habit, any one of these things. And each week it's broken down to the two main functions to create the change are observe and reflect. So on a Monday, you can see the start of the journey, if you remember from the journey, was tripod of motivation, which is a leadership strategy to foster belonging and inclusion in a team. So we're going to learn that. Now we could learn that from a PowerPoint presentation, not a problem at all. But the point is, could we execute on that? And what this is doing is sherpering leaders through the process of implementing that behavior or mindset change, right? So we build in, so day one is always observe, day two is always reflect. And the third day, the Friday, is in a completely separate place, which I'll give you a view of at the end. So you've got observe, reflect, action, right? So let's have a look at what's in it. And what's in it is an order, like content is broken down, because remember, the different people like different sort of material or content. Some people like to be given their mind nudge just as a piece of text. Give me the instruction and I'll do the mind nudge, and it anchors in my mind for the day. Nice and easy, right? Some people like to listen, like myself. I'm auditory. So I prefer to listen to the audio vibe and be guided through it. So this audio vibe, this particular one of tripod and motivation, is like 3 to 5 minutes maximum. So you listen to that in the morning. It anchors, primes your mind for the day. You go about your day. That's it. So the consuming time of this is roughly about 5 minutes, unless it's got a handout where it asks you to sit down, and then it might be 10 minutes. So we're talking 3 times a week, probably maximum 5 to 10 minutes maximum. But the compound effect on this across the journey is the return on time investment is just massive, because the time investment is very low because it's nano or micro learning, but the output, because it's transformational, is huge. And of course, it compounds over the life of the journey. So again, you can read it. Let me just take you to that. You can read the instruction of a mind nudge. So it says listen or read, or of course, you can listen on the go. Now, if anyone, I say at this point, if anyone wants to listen to an audio vibe, get a feel of it, there's nothing like a bit of experience, is there? Please DM Chris Thorne or Fee Hills, and we'll share that with you, so you can start to experience it firsthand, and we'll find a way of giving you that experience, so that bring you on the platform or whatever it may be. And then you can see over here that in the Mind Nudging room, there's a section that is my reflection or my observation, where we're journaling back. It's good. From a participant point of view, I'm not going to take you through that experience because Chris is going to. And then you can see that the facilitator is nudging or guiding or sherpaing that person, the participant, through their own journey of change. And of course, from an AI point of view, which we're not going to talk about today again, because we don't want to overwhelm the whole process of understanding this mindset navigation platform, is from that point of view, what it is doing is supporting the entire process, and it's individualizing the journey. So whilst we can all go and learn these concepts as a leadership team, say we had 100 leaders and they were all going through the same journey, each individual will have a different level of understanding of each strategy or skill and strengths and weaknesses. So there needs to be an overlay of what's called individualization along the journey. And that is the job of the AI. And that's how we scale. We scale the whole thing, supported by the AI. So that's what the room looks like, which of course a participant can come and go into any room, but they don't have to. So on that note, over to you. And Chris, I'm a participant. Tell me what I experience and how long it takes and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely, Fee. And let's just talk about really a day in the life of a mind nudge. So imagine that you're a participant on, let's just say, this psychological safety journey, and it's day one, and you receive the link. You receive the link to your nudge. And as we've been saying, is that our intent has been to make this as seamless and frictionless for the participant as possible. So they would just automatically be taken into the platform, because obviously that's one of the challenges that we often have with platforms, isn't it? Is they're great, but we got to get people on the platform, don't we, to actually use them. So the participant would go in and they would get their mind nudge. Day one, as we said before, is about observation. It's about raising self-awareness, priming both the conscious and the unconscious mind to embed that new skill, behavior, habit, whatever it is, that way of thinking, and they go about their day. And the great thing about it, because they're able to just access this seamlessly, you can be doing this on the go. You could sit down in the morning with a cup of coffee and give yourself a bit of time to do your nudge, whatever really works for you, because it's an iterative and on-the-go process. So the day goes by, and then in the afternoon on the same day, our participant would receive the nudge to go in and be prompted to reflect. Okay, what did you notice? What did you observe? What is your feedback effectively on the nudge, and what happened within the context of your day, so that the learning is relevant to you, it's contextual to you. And then this is where our facilitators step in, because it's not enough just to have gotten this transfer, this nudge, this information. Okay, we've gone away, we've had to think about it. What do we do with it now? So our facilitator really is there to guide our participant through that process. It might be some back and forth facilitation. It might be another nudge. It might be, it's whatever that participant needs to individualize that journey, so that that learning then sticks. Because if you think about it, our Sherpas we're not there to tell people what to think. We're not there to effectively tell people how to climb the mountain of change. We're there to help them to think and to help them make that journey, walking alongside them to guide them. And then that process would continue. And the nudges have been spaced out so that you get a bit of a gap between the observation, the reflection, and then of course on the Friday, the key thing is, of course, we need to take action. We need to commit to doing something with that information. And then our participant will be taken into that room on the platform where they make their little micro commitment. I will try to do X, Y, Z with this over the next day, week, etc. And because we need a little bit of gentle accountability, don't we? There's something about putting something out there in the public, in the domain, but also then having the support of other participants on that cohort. We'll get more into how the shared learning works, as she said, next week. And really all this is how we then guide people on this process to help them become, fit for change, so that they can truly take all this information and actually put it into practice, so that it actually becomes just a part of what they do. Because unless we go and we implement, we won't change. And of course, the key thing, as we've said before, we can't say it enough, is that learning happens in the reflection. And I can tell you, even from my own experiences, that reflection, we think we know how to do it, but we're not really taught how to reflect properly. We don't really know, what do we do? What questions do we need to ask ourselves? And even when we do ask those questions, having that facilitator there to help us just to make sense of that and kind of go back and forth a little bit, that's what embeds that learning. That's where it starts to stick. Would you agree, Fee?
I always agree with you, Chris, especially on a Monday morning.
Well,
Always.
but hopefully you'd agree then, isn't it? Is that reflection isn't something that comes naturally. I mean, I'm just like you. I mean, I prefer to have a guided meditation, or, if I'm doing a fitness class, I just want to want someone to guide me, to hold my hand, because my busy brain has got so much in it. I just need someone to make this as seamless and easy and frictionless for me as possible, because we know that if we want people to embed new habits and behaviors, the companies that are the most successful at doing that are the ones that make it easy. They make it frictionless. Think Amazon for the mind.
I like that. I wouldn't mind being like Amazon, would you?
There you go. That's it.
So we go back to the journey, because we always come back to this: picture speaks 1,000 words. We go through the psychological safety journey. The outcome is the leader wants to execute new techniques, new knowledge, and be able to execute that so it actually does foster and measure as well. Where we can do this, by the way, it's completely measurable along the way, which is massively important. But here we are, we can now execute on these 12 distinct strategies or techniques or skills, and we can do it as a whole leadership team, rather than say one leader being very good at fostering site safety, because that just happens to be a strength of theirs, and some others may be struggling on the other end of the scale at saying, well, I sort of get these models, but I just don't know how to get from what I'm understanding of this model to the reality of how I execute on that. Sorry, I just nearly fell off the chair. That's nice. And to actually foster psychological safety, be it in the inclusion side or whatever it may be. So ultimately, the introspective side, which is what we've looked at today, requires that guidance. And like you say, Chris, if you go through a class or anything, I mean, I particularly can't train very well unless I am in some sort of guidance, whether it be a class or whether it be with a sort of personal coach, because that's the way I am. Now, a lot of people are not like that, and they don't need that guidance, but a lot of people do. And it's the same for this. Most people, it's not even that they need the guidance, it's that they don't have the space and time to think for themselves about how I'm going to do this. So how am I going to learn to execute this behavior? So when we look at, this is important at this point to talk about how, when we look at behavior change and habit change, it's very simple to talk about habit change, but it's a whole nother thing to sustainably change our habits in a systematic way and not fall back to our sort of old habits and behaviors.
Definitely.
Oh, sorry, Chris, go on.
No, go, definitely. And one of the key things we also know about habit change is that one of the key strategies that makes habit change successful is if we are doing it in the company of other people that are striving towards the same habit. Because that social learning, and we will get more into the social learning, but having that social support and being part of a like-minded group of people is huge when it comes to habit change. Well, you only have to look at the success of numerous support groups out there for just about anything to see that that's true.
So let's talk about what we're going to talk about next week, which is shifting. So what role, whilst introspection is fantastic, reflecting, fabulous, but don't we need some other form of learning? And we do. So social learning plays a huge part in this for mindset and behavior change, not surprisingly. So social learning in our world covers things like pop-up learning escapes, which is experiential sessions, which may last between 30 and 60 minutes and have a distinct one particular technique or skill outcome, done in an environment with, say, 30 people in a room, in a Zoom, or in on site, whichever. And effectively, it's based on gamification and the neuroscience of play. So it's experiential learning in the real sense, and it's transformative. So that's one aspect of a type of social event, should we say, learning. But the other aspect is what we should call them shared thinking pods, but we're actually ending up just calling them thinking pods. And these are designed in social learning to create distinct groups that can think effectively through problems and ever more complex problems, be it to learn or be it just to solve a complex problem in the business, because these are amalgamating. In a learning organization, solving a problem in a business is basically learning. The learning is integrated into the heart and DNA of your daily life. That's why they call it, obviously, continuous learning. So, and that obviously, that's where we sort of get to culture, a learning culture, where it's integrated. And to do that, we need that social element. We need that bit where we're creating new knowledge together. So that does, we are going to talk about this next week because it deserves its own section. It deserves its own walkthrough. It deserves its own explanation. But just quickly to get you thinking about that, the way this is done in our world is not the same as, say, a group in social media. So let's look at a group in social media and what sort of conversation or learning it fosters. Now, it's not to say that learning doesn't happen in that environment. It does. The question is, what is the quality of that knowledge and the outcome? And what we're not trying to do in the AI world is just regurgitate old knowledge and share that old knowledge, although that has a place. I'm not saying don't share old knowledge, even if it's 2,000 years old. That all of this stuff has a place. What we're saying is there is a huge gap here where we need to fill by creating new knowledge together. So new knowledge creation, we call that. In order to achieve that, you need a different type of space for social thinking and social learning together. And that needs to create higher order conversations, discussion, higher order debate. What does that mean? Well, that means that the thinking put into that is structured and it's intentful, it's purposeful. So let's say, you see these things at the bottom here, you've got icons. Am I showing you that, Chris?
Yes.
Okay. So these things are what we call intent prompts and my intent prompts. So before I make a comment, I tell you what my intent behind that comment is. So explore some of the intent prompts, right? So you've got critical thinking, creative thought, insightful, etc. Supportive, so I'm just supporting you. Inspirational or reframe. So self-explanatory to an extent, right? But what is the thought process behind this? In social learning, we have to direct the thinking. It's not social media. We want an outcome. It's not just let's go and have a bit of it. Sometimes a bit of a laugh, by the way. You want that as well. But when we're talking about a think tank, then we want people to think constructively. And in order think constructively, we have to sort of guide and navigate. Again, we come down to navigating. So if I put in, Chris puts in something of a comment or an input or maybe experience that she's been through, and she's sharing either an experience or some learning or an idea, whatever it may be, I may think about that critically and then I answer it. If I answer that with a critical thought and you don't know what my intent is, one of the things that will happen is there'll be misunderstandings and misconstrued about what I meant. When I put my intent in, this is a critical thinking thought. What it's doing for me is making me think about my thinking. So my intent, I have to think about it. But what it's doing for the greater conversation is it's taking the heat out of it, saying, oh, what she meant there is critical thinking thought. Oh, fair enough. So I
wish you had that in your normal conversation sometimes, don't you?
Yeah,
think how many misunderstandings I might save.
The world is full of them. We're right. Oh, so we've hit the time. So what we're going to do next week is we're going to dive deeper into the shared thinking pods, the methodology behind these shared thinking pods, and how we can better drive higher order, what we call higher order thinking skills, conversations to get to solve problems and learn continuously. So that's what we're going to be doing next week, and also talking about pop-ups. So no, over to you to close off, Chris. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening.
Well, I mean, gosh, we've covered a lot of ground this week, and it does seem as though, well, and there's obviously still much more to explore in terms of the shared thinking pods. I'm particularly excited about the pop-ups because they're quite a lot of fun. People really enjoy them, but actually the impact is quite significant. So do come along next week and learn more about that. But I just wanted to close off by thanking everyone for tuning in this week and learning more about how this all comes together. Really, what does it all look like on the platform? And the key here is that we can design these journeys for you. You might be thinking, this looks great, but gosh, this is pretty involved kind of a process. And really, it is, to be truthful, but that's where we can come in and we can help design those journeys, or we can draw from journeys that we've already designed and come up with a solution that will help you to individualize your journey so that you can really help your people to be really fit for change against this ever-evolving AI-driven world. So we'll come along next week. Any questions in the meantime, connect with Fee or myself, or follow us on LinkedIn, and definitely follow the MindNudger page, where we'll have the details for next week's event up soon.
Thank you very much, everybody, for listening, whether it be on the recording or live. Thank you. And thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Fee.
Spend that time with you on a Monday morning.